Hello friends, welcome into NFL Daily presented by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Let's take a look now at some more head coaching candidates. We talked about the Jets and the Browns and the Packers. Another team that could be looking for a new head coach this offseason, not official yet, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now they're 5-7, putting up a good showing today against the Saints so far. But I think that Dirk Koetter is on his way out, and frankly, I think he absolutely needs to be. Should have been fired last year, managed to hang around, but they're not going to make the playoffs this year. Best case, they finish, around 500? That's not going to get the job done. Now, we'll update this list as we get further into the actual hiring process. In the Bucs in particular, we'll update because what's going to happen with the front office? That's the big thing there. Is Jason not going to stay as the Bucs GM? For now, I'll approach it as he's going to, but if he doesn't, the Bucs coaching search will be drastically changed based on who they hire. So keep that in mind as we go through our top 10 candidates. And by the way, if they keep the front office, maybe they keep OC Todd Monken, who I like quite a bit, as a better play caller than Dirk Koetter. And if they keep Monken, maybe they look for a defensive-minded guy, unlike most teams this time of the year. So first off, before we get to our top 10 candidates here, should the Bucs fire Dirk Koetter? I think he's got to go. I didn't like the hire in the first place. I get you wanted to keep Jameis Winston with some stability there. That clearly did not work out. I think he's got to go. It's an easy yes for me, but let me know if you disagree, and if so, feel free to explain why. So the top 10 candidates then for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number 10, again, we'll get some more defensive guys, and we'll get some different names on the lists as we go through a bunch of different guys. Again, some similar names, but we'll keep it fresh each time around. How about George Edwards of the Vikings? Now, he's 51, which is older than most in terms of recent head coaching hires, but has a long track record of a good job as the Vikings DC. Mike Zimmer loves him. That's a pretty good reason for me to have some interest there. Interviewed for the Bears job last year, did not get it. Edwards, I think, is going to be a lesser option. There are some younger, maybe even better options as if you're looking for a DC. Also look out for a guy like a Vic Fangio with the Bears' current DC, but Edwards checks in at number 10. I think he'll get some interviews, but I don't know if he'll actually be hired this time around. All right, number 9, how about Dan Campbell? And Pete Carmichael could also fit here, but Campbell has some ties to the Florida area, was the interim head coach for the Dolphins. 5-7 really didn't do all that bad for him. Now, he is the tight ends coach. Don't read too much into that. He is also the assistant head coach. He's interviewed for other head coaching jobs, so he's not a true offensive play caller type. He is kind of more of that overarching head coach type of mold there. So Campbell checks in at number 9. If you want an OC, Pete Carmichael for the Saints, I think also makes some sense here. Number 8 is Matt Campbell, and this one might have actually literally just taken a hit. It was announced all of 5 minutes ago that Campbell has agreed to a 1-year extension, or a 2-year extension with Iowa State, getting his assistant head coaches increased pay raises. To be fair, though, if it's an NFL job, I don't think the extension matters all that much for Matt Campbell, but he's not going to go to Ohio State, obviously. But NFL teams love Matt Campbell. I think he makes a little bit more sense for maybe a northern NFL head coaching job, even though geography is not all that important for the NFL versus college football. But I think Matt Campbell could be an interesting target there for Tampa Bay. Now, today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. Put down $50, they're going to give you $60. 100 means you get 120 extra. Put down 500 extra bucks, be a big baller. I'll give you $600 extra to bet with on BetDSI. But you got to use that promo code LIVE120 at chatsports.com/bet. All right, Eric Bieniemy checks in at number 7. He's going to draw interest in part because the NFL is a copycat league. And what's worked out well lately? The Andy Reid coaching tree has worked out well. Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy. Go hire the Chiefs OC. It's almost a stepping stone job right now to an NFL head coaching gig. Now, the difference here is that Bieniemy is not the play caller. That's still Andy Reid. Now, the Chiefs offense has obviously been fantastic this year. Bieniemy does deserve some credit there. He's going to draw interest, and we'll see if he does end up getting the head coaching job. I'll make note here as well because it's the reality of the NFL. Interviewing Eric Bieniemy would also satisfy the Rooney Rule for all NFL teams. All right, some more offensive names here. How about Mike McCarthy, since the NFL is moving more and more to an offensive-based league? Look, the Packers fired Mike McCarthy for good reason. It just did not end well. Things were not going well with McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. But overall, to last 13 years in one NFL head coaching spot, as long as you're not Marvin Lewis, that's impressive. And Mike McCarthy, is going to get another shot. Now, the hope is that it's just a change of scenery. It's an Andy Reid type move. You go somewhere else, and it ends up fitting much better. Now, McCarthy, I think, will have his interest in his pick almost of NFL coaching jobs in theory. Would the Bucs be the one that he takes? All right, number 5 now, Josh McDaniels. Now, I had thought for sure that he had burned every bridge out there. I actually no longer think that's the case. I think I might have been wrong on that one. Now, he definitely did burn some bridges when he took the Colts job, hired some assistants, and then backed out of the job at the last second. Colts, I think, feel good about it because they got Frank Reich, and that's worked out pretty well so far this year. McDaniels, though, is not going to leave for just any job. He is going to be patient, maybe too much like he was with the Colts gig. He'll eventually, I think, get another shot either in New England or somewhere else. Maybe the Packers hire him as well, for an example. So if you're McDaniels, is the Bucs job the one you take? On one hand, you might get to choose your quarterback, but you're going to get the one that you really want, given where the Bucs could be drafting. You want to roll with Winston for one more year? That's a fair discussion that I think McDaniels will have. Now, there are some ties there with GM Jason Licht, if that's who is still making the hire here in this scenario. So I'll put McDaniels at 5. Maybe he interviews, but I'd be a little bit surprised if he actually took the Bucs head coaching job. All right, number 4, John DeFilippo. And again, if you're looking for that young Sean McVay type offensive coordinator, this is probably your guy. Now, you can make a very good and accurate argument. The Vikings offense has kind of disappointed this year. It has not been as good as I think everyone else thought it was going to be. Offensive line a big factor there, but DeFilippo's play calling has left something to be desired there. But he has interviewed jobs last year as a quarterbacks coach. Now he's been promoted. I will not be surprised if he gets hired this year. I think the Vikings kind of approach this as, hey, it's a one-year hiring for DeFilippo. I will not be surprised if he gets a job somewhere, be it the Bucs, the Browns, the Packers, Jets, whomever ends up firing their head coach. DeFilippo is going to be one of the top targets this year for NFL teams. All right, folks, we're getting close to the holidays and Christmas time. So if you're looking to get that guy in life a special gift, get him a visit to Main Street. It's the best damn dress shirt out there. Comfortable.af is the site, and trust me, folks, this shirt is indeed comfortable as F. You will not find a more comfortable shirt, dress or otherwise, than a Visit Main shirt. All right, let's move now to some defensive guys. I got 2 good ones in mind, then, of course, your top offensive targets. So number 3, we'll go defense here. How about Kris Richard? He actually, I could see being hired here. Now, it's funny, both our top 2 defensive guys aren't technically the DC. Kris Richard is listed as the passing game coordinator and the DB's coach, but let's not kid ourselves. Kris Richard is calling the plays for the Cowboys. He is your de facto DC. Former Seahawks DC himself is well regarded. The Cowboys love him, and he has had head coaching interviews in the past. The Colts, for example, just last year. Richard is going to draw interest. The Cowboys want to keep him, but he might get an NFL head coaching job. And if you're the Bucs and you keep Todd Monken, if that's not that you want to go, Kris Richard runs your DC and your overall team. That's, I think, a pretty good combo right there if you're Tampa Bay, because I liked what Monken did earlier this year when he was still the play caller. You bring in a great guy like Richard on the defensive side to be your head coach. That's a good 1-2 punch right there. Now, we talk defense here, but what type of coach would you rather hire? Type D for defensive, O for offensive. There's really no wrong answer. I'll make note, typically what you see, teams go the opposite way. They go offense, then defense, and back and forth. They kind of go the opposite of what they had before, which we see that quite a bit. We saw with the Cardinals, for example, last year. I think the Bucs could be that type of fit this year. You had an offensive guy in Dirk Koetter. Now you're going to go defensive with maybe another guy we'll get to here in a minute, or Kris Richard. Now, I'm sure the ideal target for the Bucs is this guy, Lincoln Riley, because everybody wants Lincoln Riley. All the NFL teams want to hire him. I don't know if he's actually going to leave, though. So we'll put him high up there because I think he'll be a high target. But I don't know if he's going to be the most likely guy. And this top board is kind of more of a hybrid of likely and, top targets for Tampa Bay. But everyone wants him. But frankly, that OU gig's a good one. I'm not just going to leave that for no reason. And it's still an NFL job, I get that, but you can make just as much, if not more money in Tampa Bay, or in Oklahoma if you're Lincoln Riley, than Tampa Bay. Maybe just stay there and keep churning out Heisman Trophy winners if you're Lincoln Riley. All right, my number 1 candidate, though, maybe a lesser name. I'm kind of going aggressive on this one, I'll be honest there. How about Brian Flores? Again, much like Kris Richard, isn't listed as the DC, but he calls the plays. He is the de facto defensive coordinator. Now, he interviewed for the Cardinals job last year. That's worth noting. He is your next up-and-coming Patriots assistant. There are some ties there with the GM for the Bucs, Jason Licht, from New England. Flores had interest last year. I think he actually almost got that Cardinals job. I will not be surprised if he gets a job this time around. Now, teams typically don't hire defense. If they do, I think Brian Flores could be your guy, a promising up-and-coming coach. And look, Patriots, DC, or OC typically ends up getting hired as a head coach. All right, to recap my top 10 candidates, your dark horse defensive guy, George Edwards. Dan Campbell gets some interview. Another Campbell, Matt Campbell, who did just sign an extension, to be fair. Eric Bieniemy, Mike McCarthy, 7 and 6. Josh McDaniels at 5. John DeFilippo at 4. Kris Richard, Lincoln Riley, Brian Flores. I like those two young defensive guys who aren't technically DCs, but in reality they are. But we're going to go with the reality there and the more the technicality there. But let me know, folks, who will be the head coach for the Bucs in 2019? Is it one of those guys I mentioned? Do you have somebody else in mind, or is it someone I had ranked lower that you like higher? Let me know in the comment section. If it's a name I did not mention, there are plenty out there that are legitimate candidates. Let me know in the comment section. I'll chime in with my thoughts on him as well.